the mainstream news media. While Americans rely on it daily for the latest reports on world and domestic events, a recent study conducted by the Cronkite School of Journalism indicates that nearly 67% of Americans don't trust major media for accurate reporting. Ask Americans specifically why they distrust the media, and the answers are generally vague. After all, reports of news media abuses aren't normally found on the front page or the nightly news. Nonetheless, they do exist. Dateline NBC, a primetime news program, airs a story in 1992 entitled "Waiting to Explode." The story includes footage demonstrating that a line of trucks produced by General Motors readily explode on impact.
To see for ourselves what might happen in a side impact crash, Dateline NBC hired the Institute for Safety Analysis to conduct crash demonstrations. Unlike GM tests, the fuel tanks were filled with real gasoline. Look what happened. At impact, a small hole was punctured in the tank. According to our experts, the pressure of the collision and the crushing of the gas tank forced gasoline to spew from the gas cap. The fuel then erupted into flames when ignited by the impacting car's headlight.
After the program airs, one of the firemen at the taping of the crash contacts GM. The conversation inspires a full-scale investigation. 3 months later, NBC is forced to reveal their role in fabricating the news.
NBC's contractor did put incendiary devices under the trucks to ensure that there would be a fire if gasoline were released from the truck's gas tank.
We said the crash, quote, forced gasoline to spew from the fuel cap, end quote. GM says since the gas cap was the wrong cap for the GM filler tube, and because the gas tank was overfilled, the cap came off when the impact occurred.
We agree with GM that we should have told our viewers about these devices.
The Dateline reporter, however, said, quote, at impact, a small hole was punctured in the tank, unquote. GM has now x-rayed that tank and found no hole.
We acknowledge the placing of the incendiary devices under the truck was a bad idea from start to finish.
That's our new policy, and we'll be right back.
After the 1995 bombing of the Murrah Federal Building, information came to light that contradicted government claims disseminated through the mainstream media. One source was Carol Howe, a government informant. She revealed that federal agencies had prior knowledge of the terrorist plot and were ignoring several figures linked to the bombing. Roger Charles is a retired Marine colonel and former correspondent at ABC News. His news team interviewed Howe and obtained confirmation of her testimony.
So here we had confirmation from a government representative in Denver with the McVeigh Prosecution Task Force saying, your facts are accurate. So we think we've got a slam dunk story. It will be a piece of cake to get it on air now because we have confirmation from a government spokeswoman that our facts are true.
The story was ready to air on ABC Evening News, but to Charles' surprise, the story never ran.
A few minutes later, a phone rang. Tom Gerald from ABC 2020 was on the phone to Thrasher saying the story had been killed for the evening. Didn't know why, but the decision in New York was not to run the story on Peter Jennings' nightly news that night.
In order for the story to air, Charles reworked it following suggestions from New York.
Well, the next morning, Don Thrasher gets a call from New York, and he gives me one of these. I couldn't believe it. I knew what the signal was. The story was not going to go again.
Outside Bethlehem's hospital earlier this month, Ismail Hawaja sat sick with grief. The Israelis had killed his wife, Huda, he told CBC, with an explosion at their home. As is often the case, his story of abuse by soldiers couldn't be verified. The army had nothing to say, and what was happening inside the refugee camp was off limits to foreign reporters. but not to the Israeli media. An Israeli camera went right along with the soldiers, right into the briefings, and right into the Hawaja home. The army blew off the door and inside found Huda Hawaja mortally wounded on the floor. Ismail Hawaja clearly thought at that point his wife would live. He begged the army to let an ambulance through. There were delays. The camera captured the terror of the woman's young daughter and her brother's attempt to stop her from showing the soldiers her fear. After the mother was finally taken out, one of the soldiers spoke to the news crew. "I don't know what we're doing here," he said. "Purification, maybe. It's dirty here. I don't know why a good Hebrew boy should be here so far from his home." Another soldier said he approved of the operation and that it really wasn't so bad. The soldiers then tore the house apart, evidently looking for weapons. In another scene, a girl begged soldiers not to demolish her home's wall, but in vain. Soldiers commonly smash walls to get into adjacent houses. This tape was actually not supposed to be aired. The arrangement is this. All three networks here agree that if the Army doesn't like what's filmed, the footage is never broadcast. In this case, the Army decided this tape was too embarrassing, too damaging, so it ordered it shelved. But this past weekend, Israel's Channel 2 decided to break the embargo, and the Army and the government and a lot of viewers did not like what they saw.
So, on the one
This
side,
Israeli official, who strongly condemns Palestinian censorship, had this to say.
I would have expected, a little bit more, I would call it self-censorship on the part of the Israeli media.
Israel's second biggest newspaper splashed it all over page 1 today under the headline, "Gaffe." The Army, after trying to suppress distribution of the pictures, expressed contrition for its soldiers' actions.
Our action is so difficult to be done that it's, I would say, to the extremities of acceptance.
And regarding the delay in evacuating Huda Hawaja, the Army said this.
It's a mistake.
Neil MacDonald, CBC News.
Tribute lights in the New York skyline, an annual memorial to the lives lost on 9/11. Yet there's still more light that needs to shine, revealing truths that their family members deserve to know. September 11th, 2001, a day that changed history. 4 planes went silent and off course. 2 of those planes crashed into the World Trade Center Twin Towers. Several columns were severed, and the jet fuel ignited fires that spread over several floors. About an hour later, millions watched in shock as both towers were suddenly and rapidly destroyed, killing almost 3,000 people, for whom truth and justice may have yet to be served. Hi, I'm Richard Gage, AIA, licensed architect of over 20 years and member of the American Institute of Architects. I'm founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, a non-profit organization of well over 1,000 technical and building professionals. According to official government reports, the fires weakened the structural steel framing of both twin towers, leading to sudden, progressive, and total collapses. Unknown to most people, a third steel frame high-rise, World Trade Center 7, was also destroyed. Critical questions have been raised by more than 1,500 architects and engineers about the official explanations for the destruction of all 3 of these buildings. Along with more than 10,000 other concerned individuals, these professionals, collectively comprising more than 25,000 years of experience, have signed our petition. They're calling for a new investigation into the destruction of these 3 World Trade Center high-rises. This call is based on evidence that reveals a very different destruction scenario than reported by government engineers. This includes abundant scientific forensic data and eyewitness testimony that was omitted from the official reports.
I must disagree with my esteemed colleague here. Okay. First of all, let me say that science is the engine of prosperity. From steam power to electricity to the laser to the transistor to the computer.
That's not true.
We're talking about. Hey, can I have my? Sure. You had your say. Let me have my say. Yes. However, the information revolution has a weakness, and the weakness is precisely the educational system. The United States has the worst educational system known to science. Our graduates compete regularly at the level of third world countries. So how come the scientific establishment of the United States doesn't collapse? If we're producing a generation of dummies, if the stupid index of America keeps rising every year, just watch network television and reality shows, right? How come the scientific establishment of the United States doesn't collapse? Let me tell you something. Some of you may not know this. America has a secret weapon. That secret weapon is the H-1B. Without the H-1B, the scientific establishment of this country would collapse. Forget about Google. Forget about Silicon Valley. There would be no Silicon Valley without the H-1B. And you know what the H-1B is? It's the genius visa, okay? You realize that in the United States, 50% of all PhD candidates are foreign-born? At my system, one of the biggest in the United States, 100% of the PhD candidates are foreign-born. The United States is a magnet sucking up all the brains of the world, but now the brains are going back. Right. They're going back to China. They're going back to India. And people are saying, oh my God, there's a Silicon Valley in India now. Oh my God, there's a Silicon Valley in China. Duh. Where did it come from? It came from the United States. So don't tell me that science isn't the engine of prosperity. You remove the H-1B visa and you collapse the economy. In Wall Street Journal, editorialized against a congressman who wanted to ban the H-1B, saying they'll take jobs away from the American people. The Wall Street Journal said, look, there are no Americans who can take these jobs. These are at the highest level of high technology. They don't take away jobs for Americans. They create entire industries. And so that's why we have an Achilles heel, and that's the educational system. And again, sociology majors are not necessarily going to be the ones to...
Thanks for joining us. Do they have control of the situation at the site?
No. It's still a ticking time bomb. Realize that after the big Sumatra tsunami, 90 days after, 3 months after that, there was a huge aftershock. If they have another aftershock, and they're not in cold shutdown yet till next year, the accident could start all over again. It's like hanging by your fingernails. Yeah, it's stable, but you're hanging by your fingernails.
Americans think this crisis is over, or that some even think that maybe it's solved or it's contained. It's not. What's happening right now?
In the last 2 weeks, everything we knew about that accident has been turned upside down. We were told 3 partial meltdowns, don't worry about it. Now we know it was 100% core melt in all 3 reactors. Radiation, minimal, that was released. Now we know it was comparable to the radiation at Chernobyl. And as far as evacuation, yeah, 12 miles, that's it. You don't have to evacuate beyond 12 miles. Now they find hotspots, 4 hotspots outside the evacuation zone. 34,000 school children now have radiation badges when they go to school.
Kindergartners with radiation badges.
Down to 4 years of age. Can you imagine that? Kindergarten kids with radiation badges going to school. So all the mythology of the accident has been turned upside down because utility has finally fessed up to how severe this accident really was.
In your view, did they not know how bad it was, or they knew and they didn't tell, or they just were completely blown away by the scope of the disaster?
I'm a physicist, and we tried to reconstruct the accident in our computers given the feeble amount of information they gave us. We knew it was much more severe than they were saying because radiation was coming out left and right. So, in other words, they lied to us. They knew how much radiation was coming out. They knew the danger. They knew how much core melting was taking place, but they tried to put a happy face on it.
As a reporter, within hours of the earthquake and tsunami, within hours, not even a day, there were already statements from the company and from the International Atomic Energy Association saying that there had been safe shutdown of all of the reactors. And we know, of course, in the end that simply wasn't true. But from the very beginning, they were trying to tell us that this was a safe situation.
Within hours of the accident, we now know it was like the Keystone Cops. People that are clueless, headless, just running around crazy, not knowing what to do. We can now reconstruct that accident minute by minute, hour by hour, and we can see this chaos that erupted in the leadership of the utility.
What's happening to the people who are working there now?
Well, as you know, workers are being sent in, and they're getting, like a year's dose of radiation just within like 10 minutes at a time. At Chernobyl, 600,000 workers had to be mobilized, each one going in just for a few minutes, each one getting a medal from Gorbachev.
This will be the 100-year cleanup. How long will it take to clean this up, in your view?
50 to 100 years.
And we're not there yet. We're not to the point of talking about the cleanup yet because they haven't stopped the reaction. It's still happening.
Cleanup hasn't even started yet. They're not in cold shutdown till next year.
9月の頭でございました。日弁連の主催によって女性こそ主役にという、これは災害復興に向けたシンポジウムが開催をされました。その中で、会津若松市、これは福島原発から約100キロ離れております。この会津若松市在住の女性弁護士さんの発表は大変厳しいものでございました。小学校3人のお子さん、幼稚園1人、4人のお子さんと、今現在妊娠中でいらっしゃいます。7ヶ月くらいだったと思います。そのお子さんがいらっしゃる弁護士さん、実は子供さん4人と自分の体内もセシウムが検出されたと。で、健康にすぐには、被害はありませんと、大丈夫ですとこう言われたんだけれど、本当に心配です。そして内部被曝ということがやはり心配なので、小学校の子どもたちには学校で牛乳を飲むのをやめなさいと言いましたと。そしたら先生に、牛乳を飲まない子どもは前へ出てらっしゃい。バケツに1人ずつ飲まない子数人いたそうです。バケツに捨てさせられて、なんで飲まないのかという理由を言わされたと。そしてこれを飲まない人は福島県民じゃないと、住む資格はないと言われたそうです。戦前の非国民のようなこういうことがありましたし、自分もこれでいいのだろうか、将来子どもたちに本当にここに住み続けるということで説明できるんだろうかと悩んでいるという、こういう話がありました。笑わないで聞いてください、官房長官。しっかり聞いていただきたい大事な話でございますのでね、大事なところではそんなね笑わないでくださいよ。冗談じゃありませんよ。私が申し上げたいのはね、本当にそういう思いしてるんですよ。
Nuclear rabbit has sparked online panic in Japan. Amateur footage shows an earless mutant rabbit, and the person who made the video claims it was shot just outside the exclusion zone near Japan's crippled Fukushima plant. The clip has given rise to fears the radiation threat in the area is far worse than previously thought. The funny bunny has caused an online frenzy, with predictions that babies in Japan may soon be born with mutations.
All right, welcome to the Health Ranger Report. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, reporting for naturalnews.com. Today we have some new information, breaking news from a medical journal called Cell Research. This is news about the dangers of genetically modified foods, and this is new information. This shows the mechanism by which genetically modified foods, or GM foods, or GE foods, genetically engineered, may alter your organ function. You see, in the past, Monsanto has said that genetically modified seeds and foods are presumed to be safe, presumed safe. It doesn't mean they're proven safe. In fact, right here from the Monsanto website, a couple of quotes you need to know. Here it is. Monsanto says, quote, "There is no need to test the safety of DNA introduced into genetically modified crops." And they go on to say, there is no need for or value in testing the safety of GM foods in humans. So you see, Monsanto has a position that they don't even need to test the safety of these genetically modified foods because it doesn't even matter. But now, here in Cell Research, we have a new study called the exogenous plant MIR16A. That is a microRNA study that we're talking about here. Specifically targets mammalian LDL-RAP1. That's a receptor for LDL cholesterol function in the liver. Evidence of cross-kingdom regulation by microRNA. Now, it means that microRNA, which is information, it is genetic information, has now been found to pass from the foods through digestion into your blood and then to attach onto your organs. It says that this MIR16A, 168A could bind to the human mouse low-density lipoprotein receptor, that's the LDL cholesterol receptors, adapter protein, inhibit LDL-RAP1 expression in the liver. Again, this is altering your liver function in terms of regulating cholesterol, and consequently decrease LDL removal from mouse plasma. What that means is that you would have high LDL levels in your blood. These findings demonstrate that exogenous plant microRNA in food can regulate the expression of target genes in mammals. You got that? If you truly understand what's being said here, your jaw should be dropping to the floor. It's that big of a deal. This is huge. It means that, again, eating these genetically modified foods and crops can alter the expression of your organs. MicroRNAs have been widely shown to modulate various critical biological processes, including differentiation, that's cell specialization, apoptosis, which is part of the cancer prevention process in normal human cell metabolism, proliferation, the immune response, and the maintenance of cell and tissue identity. Now, that's another crucial statement. What do you get when your cell doesn't remember what identity it's supposed to express? You get a DNA mutation that results in the formation of a cancer cell that goes on to become a cancer tumor. So what we are seeing here now, written in this paper in language that's very technical, but if you understand it in layman's terms, it means simply this. If you eat genetically modified foods, you are absorbing information from those foods that can potentially cause cancer in your body. It can alter the expression, the function of your organs, such as the liver, and possibly, in fact, very likely, many other organs, including your brain, including fertility organs, including your kidneys, perhaps even your heart. In other words, the more genetically modified food you consume, the less human you become.
My father died of cancer. My stepfather died of heart disease. My mother has severe osteoporosis. My sister-in-law is diabetic. A friend of mine was just diagnosed with breast cancer. My neighbor's on heart medicines and cholesterol-lowering drugs. All this sound familiar? What's not so familiar is that these health problems were caused by eating habits. In fact, eating is the biggest cause of disease, disabilities, and death in the U.S. today. Just ask Dr. Joseph Crow, a doctor at the Cleveland Clinic Foundation. Dr. Crow had no family history of heart disease. He was fit, did not smoke, and had a total cholesterol of just 156 when he suddenly experienced a heart attack at the age of 44.
In fact, I was about as close as you can get to not seeing tomorrow, so to speak.
Instead of dangerous surgery, Dr. Esselstyn, a colleague at the Cleveland Clinic and one of the world's leading authorities in heart disease reversal, told him to simply change his diet.
It was a big change in the diet, and it was reflected in my blood work.
Dr. Crow's heart disease was completely reversed. This picture shows the diseased, shriveled artery on the left and his healed artery on the right. Dramatic proof of how a plant-based diet heals from within. Dr. Neil Pinckney knows something about clogged arteries. His father died of heart disease at the age of 59. At the age of 58, Dr. Pinckney almost met the same fate when he discovered that his main coronary artery was 100% blocked and the other two were 90 and 85% blocked. His cardiologist told him he needed emergency bypass surgery or he would die. He decided to save his own life by walking away from that surgery.
My angina, the pain that was so severe, within 2 weeks it was almost all gone. Within 2 months it was completely gone, and I started walking up. I couldn't walk 200 feet without severe pain and have to sit down. And just 3 months later, I was walking 2 miles up a steep hill with no pain. 7 months after I started this program, I finished in the middle of the pack of an 8.2-mile Great Aloha run, and I had never run a race before in my life.
Not only do you escape stroke and heart attack, but this also would include obesity, hypertension, adult onset diabetes, and the common Western cancers of breast in the female, prostate in the male, and colon in both. So I think the spin-offs here, in terms of overall health, are extremely profound.
It can't be cancer. I'm too healthy. I'm a marathoner, for God's sake. I can't have cancer. This lump is something else. I was horrified, mortified, felt betrayed by my body, thought this can't be happening.
Plant-based diets also cure adult onset diabetes, as well as many other diseases. The American Diabetes Association will tell you there is no cure for adult onset diabetes, which simply means there is no drug that will cure the disease. And yet, adult onset diabetes is easily and quickly cured with a change in diet and lifestyle.
They come in and get on this program, and in 24 hours, they have cut their insulin by half. On day number 5 or 6, they don't need insulin at all, ever again.
In most cases, 5 to 7 days. We have a few cases that are particularly severe. It might take 2 weeks.
All right, now the FDA is saying that walnuts are a drug. Now, for me, we had to get the honey glazed sesame seed kind. I got the good stuff right here. Paid good money too. Got these down at the corner of Florida and North Capitol. Yeah. All right. So we know these things are potent. So keep it on the down low because the feds here are just upstairs. All right. Just walnuts here. Just walnuts. After marketing some truthful findings about the benefits of omega-3 fatty acids found in walnuts, the FDA is cracking down hard on Blue Diamond's nuts. Blue Diamond promoted the findings of over 57 studies that concluded that walnuts reduced risk of heart disease and some kinds of cancer. But here in Soviet America, FDA approves you. If not, your product is subject to seizure. So, in typical busybody fashion, a strongly worded letter was sent to Blue Diamond Foods, letting them know that they're violating Soviet ordinances for marketing an unapproved drug. As the New American has reported, the out-of-control FDA informed Blue Diamond that, quote, your walnut products are drugs. They may not legally be marketed in the United States without an approved new drug application. So this is really about product labeling and competition. It's okay to put help nourish your brain on fruit juice, alleged fruit juice. It's okay to put low fat or fat-free even on anything you want. And more importantly, it's okay to poison Americans with corn syrup and other bottled sodas.
They couldn't believe that they were giving medicines to people that were actually, in some instances, killing patients.
Am I selling a drug, or am I there as an information tool? And it was sales.
Should doctors take drug samples? Well, I took drug samples and I thought I was being like a Robin Hood.
It's well documented that the drug industry spends roughly twice on marketing what they spend on research and development, and this really demonstrates the drug industry's skewed priorities.
And though industry will say the marketing costs don't affect the cost of drugs, they do say the research costs affect the cost of drugs. So though I'm not an economist, I don't see how you can have one but not the other.
There is evidence that the best advertised drugs to consumers are the best sellers. No surprise.
The main difference between Nexium and Prilosec is the yellow stripes they added to Nexium and the price. Now Nexium is 7 times more expensive than Prilosec.
We can't even trust the New England Journal of Medicine or the Journal of American Medical Association anymore. The bottom line is that now 90% of clinical studies are funded by the drug companies. The odds are 5 times greater that commercially funded studies will support their products.
It's our government, and it's the NIH, and it's the CDC, and it's the FDA, and it's the Congress and the White House. All of these have very, very, very powerful financial relationships with the drug industry.
The Food and Drug Administration does not report all the deaths it knows about because these are considered federal trade secrets.
The main character's experience is closely based on my own experience, and I worked for the industry for about 10 years.
We have been fluoridating our water in Tennessee for more than 50 years, but never before has there been more talk than that fluoridating our water might be a bad idea and a health risk. Tonight, Dennis Ferrier has the latest developments on a story that impacts all of us.
Joey Hensley is a respected physician. He's also a Tennessee state lawmaker. He is now combining those two professions to make a very strong point.
We've been doing it 50 years. But just because we've been doing something 50 years doesn't necessarily mean that it's right.
Hensley's talking about something most of us don't even think about, fluoridating water. After much research, the doctor has sent out a letter to every water district in Tennessee asking them to stop fluoridating water. The evidence, he says, fluoride works better when you rub it on your teeth, not when you drink it. That fluoridation is medication added to water without your permission, and that's wrong. But most of all, because the National Research Council believes young children are getting 3 to 4 times the dose of fluoride as adults. And now the American Dental Association is telling mothers not to make baby formula with fluoridated water because of fear of dental fluorosis.
And that's big news, and that really hasn't been publicized very much.
Health researcher Dan Stockin believes that this ADA warning about baby formula and fluoride is just the beginning.
The ramifications of this are so huge, I'm sure that the state health department hasn't quite figured it out yet. Because see, once the door cracks, and it is now for what it does to teeth, the next group, one of the next groups that's going to start raising their hands and saying, what about us, is people who are on dialysis and people who have borderline kidney damage and impairment. Then there's all the people that have hypothyroidism.
Scientists like Nobel Prize winner Arvid Carlson and a large group of EPA scientists have called for the banning of fluoride because we don't know how much we're ingesting, so we don't know if we're being poisoned.
There are so many potential legal things about to happen that as a taxpayer, I think it would be really, really smart for the water districts and the Metro Nashville. Look, just if people want fluoride, let them use fluoridated toothpaste and spit it out. But don't go poisoning everyone. Don't continue this after everyone knows all this information now, just because it's not convenient.
Now, Dr. Hensley has already had one response. Spring City in Ray County is going to stop fluoridating its water, and it is that simple. I mean, there's no law. It's all voluntary, Dan, so anyone can turn on the fluoride or turn it off.
Dennis, let's make sure we're clear on this. Fluoride, it is in tea, it's in coffee, it's in water, it's in bread, it's in toothpaste, but it's actually a poison, right?
It sure is, and here's the quickest evidence. Go to your bathroom and pick up your toothpaste, and you'll see a warning that if a child swallows more than a pea-sized amount of toothpaste, call poison control.
You know it as NutraSweet. It's in just about everything. Soft drinks, iced tea, hot chocolate, tabletop sweetener, chewing gum, cereal, pudding, ice cream, cookies, even breath mints and children's vitamins. Odds are, aspartame is part of your diet. But should it be?
It should be withdrawn from the market.
Look at this, a summary of nearly 10,000 complaints filed with the Food and Drug Administration since 1980 by people just like Edith Johnson.
I was horrified, I was panic-stricken, I was perspiring, I was scared to death on that night.
Edith says she'll never forget it.
Within a matter of moments, I went completely blind. I could not see anything.
Edith was drinking a cup of low-calorie hot chocolate that night. Aspartame made it sweet. And Johnson says aspartame made her sick.
All of a sudden, I couldn't see. My eyes went out of focus, and it was like my vision became quite blurred.
And you think it's because of aspartame?
I think it's very deliberately because of aspartame, yes.
It was terrifying.
Kate Randall thought she was going crazy.
I started popping in my hands and twitching in my feet, my legs, my knees, my upper legs, and shoulders and arms and everywhere.
Like millions of Americans, Kate Randall was a Diet Coke drinker. A big one.
9 Diet Cokes a day.
For how long?
5 years.
Every day.
Every day.
Kate developed a twitch in her eye.
And then my chin, this part of my neck, and right up by my temples started to twitch.
Kate Randall went to several doctors, but their tests were negative.
The doctors told me that it was just a glitch in my system. My first reaction was, well, it's a glitch in my system that I'm not willing to live with. And what that meant was that I was going to do my own research.
So Kate went online searching for answers. And she says what she found left her with a bitter taste for NutraSweet.
I absolutely believe that it was the breakdown of my health for 2 years.
Kate Randall isn't the only one who believes NutraSweet is dangerous. Dozens of web pages warn against the ill effects of aspartame. One of them is supported by this man, Dr. H.J. Roberts, a private physician and author of several articles and books on aspartame.
Somebody has got to put this out and say, be careful.
Roberts calls aspartame an ignored epidemic. The internist says he's treated patients who suffered severe side effects from America's favorite artificial sweetener.
The bottom line is that I have over 1,300 in my own database that people have had terrible reactions to products containing aspartame.
Dr. Olney, do you think that aspartame should be on the market today?
No.
Why not?
Because it hasn't been demonstrated to be safe.
Dr. John Olney is a researcher at Washington University in St. Louis.
I fed aspartame to infant mice and found that it produced the same kind of brain damage that monosodium glutamate causes.
Dr. Olney started studying the effects of aspartame in 1970. He says he was alarmed when the rodents developed brain tumors.
It indicates that if there's an adverse effect, a serious adverse effect in the animals, and if that adverse effect is absolutely proven in the animal research, then it should not be approved for human use.
Dr. Olney took his findings to the Food and Drug Administration as Searle, the company that developed aspartame, pushed to get the new sweetener to market. The FDA looked at the research and in 1975 put aspartame's approval on hold. It set up an independent panel of doctors to study aspartame. In 1980, that public board of inquiry unanimously ruled aspartame should not go on the market.
We had a major responsibility to evaluate.
Dr. Vernon Young from MIT is the only surviving member of the board of inquiry.
Our conclusion was that on the basis of the evidence presented at that time, we weren't able to assure ourselves of the safety of aspartame in that particular context. and that we advised the need for additional studies.
Drug addiction, it's been the plague of modern America, but that could now change forever.
What started as a rumor may now actually be an incredible breakthrough in the battle against addictions of all kinds.
Tonight, KRON4's Greg Lyon uncovers the truth behind Ibogaine in a special report you'll see only on 4.
And all that, when it comes to curing addiction, a reputable scientist believes Ibogaine is nothing short of a miracle.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly, and in the Unresolved Problems segment, curing drug addiction, as we all know, that is extremely difficult. But most of us don't know about Ibogaine. That is a medicine derived from an African shrub that some believe can cure the physical effects of drug addiction within 72 hours without any pain.
Well, now there's a medication that can help kick the addiction in a single dose.
Could the answer lie in an African root? Some former drug addicts swear by it.
Ibogaine is being received with a lot of enthusiasm outside of the United States.
And there's more. A new study conducted with rats and mice at UC San Francisco shows further evidence that Ibogaine may have a similar effect combating alcohol abuse.
Ibogaine is simply the best treatment available to help end addiction to opiates like heroin and cocaine. It may also be extraordinarily effective against alcoholism.
In tonight's special assignment, we explore this root of hope. At the top of our newscast, we told you how the scientist was confounded when she started testing and discovered that the myth was true.
Greg Lyon is back now with part 2 of the story of Ibogaine, the compound addicts are calling a miracle for curing addiction.
Treat everything from Vicodin to Oxycontin to alcohol and heroin addiction.
Very exciting. That is amazing.
Ibogaine, a mild hallucinogen that comes from the root of a shrub found in West Africa, and was rumored to have the amazing ability to help drug addicts kick their addiction.
Why can't we get Ibogaine in the USA if it'll cure drug addiction, at least physically?
Highly effective for detoxing individuals from opiates. It diminishes the desire to use drugs.
Reporters say one dose reprograms the addict's brain to a pre-addictive state and blocks withdrawal.
You're going through withdrawal. You're sweating, you're shaking, you're freezing, you're hot. It feels like your spine is being smashed in a vice. It's pain.
A drug that promised to finally help him kick his addictions with just a single treatment. Its name? Ibogaine.
Within hours, they will have no feeling of addiction or craving or anything like that at all.
Within 45 minutes of taking Ibogaine, he actually felt his addiction leaving him.
It's literally like a miracle. It was like nothing has ever worked, and this just did.
Within a half an hour. Suddenly, after 30 years, I had no desire to use it.
They lied to us.